Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Capital Raiser Show, powered by the Family Office Club. I'm your new host, Weston Walker. Today we have Andres Ospina, CEO of PitchDecks.com, which helps people raise more money for their business or investment opportunity. He's going to give us some advice on how to raise more capital. He has 16 marketing professionals on his team and 14 years of insights. Andres, welcome to the show.
Hey, Weston. Great to be on here. Thanks for having me. Excited to share with the audience.
For sure. Yeah, so give us an overview of what you do and how you help people.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm the CEO and co-founder of PitchDecks.com, which is a capital raising marketing agency. And the way that started was because I'm also the managing director at Family Office Club. We're the largest community of investors in the United States with over 7,500 registered investors. The company's been around for 17 years. I've been with them for going on 8 years. And then about 4 years ago, we launched the agency. So that should give some context around what we do. We host about 16 events a year, helping commercial real estate firms, venture capital firms, tech startups, healthcare companies of all kinds raise capital by helping them connect with our investors and also giving them top of the line strategies on how to raise capital, innovative strategies on how to market their deal, how to network with the right investors, how to structure their deals, how to prepare for the due diligence process. So that's, what we do as a company, a Family Office Club, and PitchDecks.com, being the media agency, is our done-for-you marketing services where we have graphic designers, web developers, social media experts, PR experts on hand to help companies elevate their ability to raise capital and network with potential investors.
Got it. So there's multiple opportunities here with the media side with PitchDecks.com and then Family Office Club, which are the in-person events where you can probably gain the most trust the quickest in meeting people in person, and obviously having the right materials, which you can talk about here in a second. Yeah, talk about what services do you provide on the media side, so when you go to these family offices at your events, you can really impress them.
Yeah, so we provide graphic design services. We provide consulting services on their messaging, their branding, developing their unique value proposition, or what we like to call the one-liner or the contextual investor proposition, right? Really honing down in their elevator pitch and set in a 7-second sentence that really communicates what makes them unique above all of their other competitors, right? Because maybe you're raising capital for a multi-family real estate fund, or an industrial commercial real estate fund, or a healthcare fund. And the truth is that maybe you feel like you have a unique strategy in terms of, your geographic location, your years of expertise in the space. But if you don't know how to communicate that fast and efficiently, then you're not really going to be able to keep investors on the hook and listening and wanting to know more, wanting to go through the due diligence process, and also focusing on your deal versus all the other deals that are hitting their table. So we really, for pitchdecks.com, we do contracts that are a year long, where we pretty much implement all of those things, right? And depending on the firm, we may elevate their ability to engage with investors via social media, whether that's improving their LinkedIn strategy or, their multi-channel social media strategy, helping them get on podcasts. We've had a lot of clients on this podcast, for example, and on other podcasts, or we've helped them launch their podcast in order to be able to position themselves as leaders and experts in their space. Once again, in order to grow their credibility, keep the investors' attention, and ideally raise capital from those specific investors. So
Got it. So what do you think, sorry to interrupt, but what do you think are the main commonalities between the best capital raisers?
One is that they aren't desperate, right? They're not desperate to raise capital, meaning, they're very tactful in their ability to connect with investors, to expand their network, to really position themselves as experts in the space. I think that's huge, right? Being able to really provide value to your listener, provide value to the investors, right? So I think one of the more amateur moves or what can really hurt someone in their capital raising process is if they're going to local events or they're traveling to conferences or road shows and we're kind of treating investors like ATM machines, right? Kind of trying to shove their pitch deck in front of everybody's face as fast as possible, talking too much, not asking questions, and just constantly in monologues instead of actually having a dialogue with potential investors. I think the investment firms that can have more of a dialogue with investors, that can educate potential investors, always do better. And the ones that also take time to build those relationships and understand that a relationship isn't built overnight. I think
So how do you think
that's
the first
huge.
yeah, so how do you think the first impression should look like? What should an operator do? Say they're presenting a deal to an investor and they want to make a good first impression. How should they do that?
Yeah, one, they should be more interested than trying to be interesting, right? They should be interested in the person that they're speaking to, trying to figure out, if you're talking to a potential investor or a potential prospect, trying to build rapport through asking questions, finding out more about them, where they're from, what they've invested in the past, and what their investment appetite is, what they would like to see. Really just collecting information on that potential investor in a way that they can really start to kind of build a internal profile around who that investor is, right, and what they like, and really not pitching your deal or not going for communicating what your deal is until they really find out, is this investor a right fit for my opportunity? One, and also waiting for the investor to ask them, like, all right, so what do you do? And what are you raising capital for? What's your deal about? And even then, sharing information on a gradient scale, right? So once that investor asks you what is it that you do, providing that unique value proposition, in a quick 7 to 10 second sentence, waiting to see if that piques interest, waiting to see if there's a follow-up question, and then answering those follow-up questions and gradually taking it on. Being
Got it.
patient, is crucial.
Yeah, so when you say be interested, not interesting, basically that means asking questions to the potential investor. What kind of questions do you ask them?
So again, it's what's you can start off with just basic questions. Where are you from? What brings you here? What are you hoping to gain from maybe if you're meeting them at an event or a conference? What have you invested in the past or in the past 12 to 24 months? Right? What's your investment appetite? What is your area of expertise or interest? Right? Is one question, and following up with great follow-up questions like, have you ever considered investing in XYZ, or what is your perspective or feedback or insight on the healthcare industry currently, or diagnostics, right? Or multifamily real estate in South Florida, in the Northeast, in senior living and self-storage, right? Really asking those questions in a way that gets you appropriate data back. I think that's critical as well. And being able to have conversations around maybe the current market, and once again, providing value. People love to learn. People love to know that the person on the other end can teach them something, and those are the people that investors are going to want to invest with.
Mm-hmm. So how do operators differentiate themselves from other private equity groups, real estate groups, etc.? Like the multifamily space is very crowded. It seems like a lot of people do the same thing. So how do operators position themselves as someone that's unique?
Yeah, I think one way is honestly like humility, right? So I think part of it is accepting the fact that maybe that there are many other operators out there in your space, right? And admitting that, right? Being aware of it, maybe in a conversation. Um, I think people really respect humility in that sense. But I think also, once again, I think developing unique deal structures is really important as well, right? So, one of our clients um, offers preferred positions, you know, in their deals, right? Or the way they're structuring their deals, or for a direct deal, maybe in a startup, or a direct deal is, offering gross revenue royalties, so maybe that doesn't apply so much for real estate, but for startups and things, if you can offer gross revenue royalties on your deal where you're paying off the investor first before the company's even profitable, shows the confidence in your deal or in the company, right? So that's one way, right? Having very unique deal structures, um, finding where tax efficiencies are in investing in your deal, right? So in healthcare deals, there's R&D credits, right? Research and development credits, right? Where if an investor invests in your deal, they can earn tax incentives through that R&D credit is one way as well. That's one thing. Uh, I think one of the ways too is how you're branding your firm. Branding is critical, and I think a lot of investment firms underestimate it, especially if they've been around for a long time. They think that their branding doesn't have to be clean. Their pitch decks look like they were developed by middle schoolers and not professionally designed or professionally created. I think you should invest in having your pitch deck, your executive summaries, your business cards, well put together in a consistent fashion by a good graphic designer, right? If you're not a graphic designer yourself, that really shows institutional quality level execution, right, in your firm.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, it's what's going to separate you apart from, sometimes we get pitch decks that reach our inbox that are, once again, they're in black and white. There's clip art in there. It looks like it was created by an elementary school student or middle school student. Also pitch decks that are too long. We got pitch decks sometimes that are 60 pages long. We don't think pitch decks should be more than 20 pages, 25, 26 pages at most. Right. So I think that's critical. All of those things can really help, right? We also encounter investment firms that, their website is a different color than their pitch deck, is a different color than their email signature. So all of these things, even though they seem small, they can really start to add up once you couple them together.
Right. Yeah. So it seems like there's ongoing costs. Maybe they want to do social media for a while, say 2 or 3 years, and just test you guys out. But there are one-time costs, maybe to develop the business cards, the pitch deck for their fund that might be over the next couple of years that they're raising for, and the website as well, which will likely be a one-time cost until they switch up the branding in the future. So what types of how much would it cost to have an institutional quality brand before you start adding in the recurring costs?
How much would it cost, like on our end, or how much would it just cost if you're like kind of executing it on your
Yeah,
own?
if an operator was going to you guys to put together an institutional quality package for an investor.
Yeah, I mean, we used to do a la carte. We don't really do it anymore. Now we just do annual contracts to overhaul an entire investment firm. A firm like ours that specializes in capital raising, specializes in investor relations, packages would usually cost between like 3 and 8 grand. If it was just branding, helping develop their one-liner, their logo, and some of their other like small materials, maybe like Zoom backgrounds, a brand book, and things like that. 3 grand. But if we were also developing like the pitch deck and the one pager, it'd probably go up to like 6 to 8 grand, depending on the client.
Got it. So a lot of operators on their website have a lead magnet. Maybe it's a ebook or something that provides value to their investor base. What should their website look like, and how can you implement a lead magnet into their website?
Yeah, so lead magnets can be implemented in a variety of ways. One thing is an ebook, right? So if maybe you've written an ebook, they don't have to be long, right? They can be 15, 20 pages long, the 7 secrets to investing in multifamily, or
do you think people still read those?
Sorry?
Do you think people still read ebooks
Yeah,
from
yeah, for sure. I
websites?
mean, we have
Yeah.
ebooks, but we also do videos, right? We do video series as well. So there's a variety. So you can do a video series, like a 5-part video series as well, right? Where if you can have, you know, hire someone to interview you like the way we're doing now, right? And get that recorded. Those work out really well as well, or do a 45-minute webinar. We have our webinar on pitchdex.com/webinar. And so we use that as the lead magnet. So there's a variety of ways that you can do lead magnets, right? Whether it's signing up for newsletters or whether it's accessing your pitch deck maybe and your executive summary, right? So those are ways to do lead magnets.
Hmm. What do you think are the most successful lead magnets?
I think the most successful is going to be a combination of them, right? So if the more value you give, right? Right now, like someone giving you their contact info, like a name and a phone number and email address, is considered a form of currency, right? That's valuable to people, giving their contact information. So if you can couple things together, right, you're building that value up in that package. Sign up for our newsletter, get access to our webinar, download our PDFs now, right? The more that you can couple that stuff together, the better your conversion is going to be.
For sure.
But I think if you can only pick one, I think the webinar is very strong, along with maybe a couple one-pagers and PDF downloads.
Yeah, and you can really push the lead magnet on social media as well. So talk about the social media strategy. How do you convert eyeballs into dollars? So people see your posts, they build trust over time. They keep getting value from you. How do you provide value through social media and then get them on the phone to start talking about potential investment opportunities?
Yeah, I think one of the main ways to do that is one, you got to be consistent, right? I think, in today's world, um, the more vulnerable, open, transparent you are in your social media strategy, right? The more people get to know you. It's a way for you to communicate with a large audience at once versus one by one. So some of the best people to do it that I see is, they're shooting quick videos in their car, right? Selfie videos, just sharing insights on what they're doing, what's worked for them, sharing videos of their team working from the office, giving insights on maybe their day and feedback, right? Maybe they're doing walkthroughs through properties and being able to record the walkthrough through that property, right? For us, our founder is, an avid adventure traveler. So he'll do videos when he's on hikes, across the world. He just did he went to base camp. He did the hike to Mount Everest. He did a 12-mile or 20-mile hike through the Grand Canyon. So he tries to shoot videos when he's out there or right outside of one of our conferences, right? So I think one, being consistent is critical. Being transparent, being a little vulnerable, right? It's with maybe a deal that didn't go through, or if you are working with property managers or landlords, how to negotiate those things. If you're hiring staff, right? Really communicating those things as well. So we put out a lot of content on outsourcing. We try to share content that we see that we find valuable as well, right? If you're going to local events, if you're running trade shows, just you should be documenting what you're doing and giving advice to people in your network.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah, because Richard Wilson,
well.
he's the founder of the Family Office Club. Andres runs the media side of it, and you guys have a huge LinkedIn following. You guys have been doing it for a long time, 17 years. I don't know if you've been doing LinkedIn that whole time, but that's when the company was founded 17 years ago. You guys have I believe the largest investment group on LinkedIn, over 14 million members. Could you talk a little bit about that and how you grew it to be so big on LinkedIn?
Yeah, for sure. So heavy focus on LinkedIn because we know that that's where a lot of our audience is going to be. That's where a lot of accredited investors are going to be, professionals, executives. So really focused there. We really like launching groups on LinkedIn. So we have groups for different types of things, right? Like healthcare practice groups, investment banking groups, real estate groups. We have many, many, many groups. Private equity groups, family office groups. So people want to find groups that are niche specific, right? And where they can network with other people. So we launch those groups. And over time, I've just been growing the members to those LinkedIn groups. And that's what's really been able to add up to all of the followers that we have. So we think that's very powerful as well.
Mm-hmm. So how do you
And
convert
that's
those?
been a big strategy for us for sure.
Yeah, yeah. How do you convert those LinkedIn group members to possibly going to your events or media clients, etc.?
Yeah, part of it is just promoting the upcoming events. Promoting uh, when we launch new material, right? So if we just published an ebook or a series on YouTube, promoting it that way. And having our social media team kind of be on top of those comments. So if there's anybody that's communicating interest and wanting to talk to us about our investment group or about what we're doing, then making sure that our social media team is forwarding those leads to someone on our team in order to follow up with them is very crucial and critical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys also have a database on your website for purchase. Talk about how you utilize cold outreach. If you guys do that with your clients, how you should reach out to these investors, what the message should look like.
Yeah, so we have our databases on familyofficedatabases.com, investordatabases.com. So we really love the use of cold databases. We think that they can be very effective if they're used wisely, if they're used tactfully, right? We have over 24,000 contacts worldwide for our database, right? Whether it's single family offices, multifamily offices, private equity firms, REITs, angel investors, VCs, funds of funds, institutional investment consultants, many different types of databases, right? So we find them to be really powerful once again if they're used tactfully, right? If you're just communicating in a gradient scale. So one of the ways that they can be used is if our clients are traveling a lot, right? They're going to New York one day, back in their home state, maybe going to look at properties in different states, isolating by that property, right? Or by that location, and letting an investor know really quickly, like, hey, came across your profile, saw that you guys are going to be in town or that you're in town, was hoping we could connect when I'm in Louisiana on this date. Right? Keeping it short and sweet. Our databases also have LinkedIn profile links. So going through those target cities or those target states and connecting with people that way as well is very powerful, right? Making those LinkedIn connections that way, sending out the emails, we think is very powerful as well. I think one of the mistakes, if we talk about what you shouldn't do with a database, cold database, is that you shouldn't be sending 5-paragraph emails with 5 attachments, and copy and pasting a message to 2,000 people. It looks generic. It looks like you didn't really care or try hard. People don't care what you do until they know how much you care. People don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And showing care is by letting them know that maybe you did a little research on them. So it's like if I'm emailing you, Weston, I'm like, hey, Weston, came across your LinkedIn, saw that you focus on multifamily real estate in the state of Arizona. I thought we should connect because I focus on multifamily in the Arizona region as well. Short and sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know if you want to connect.
And personalized too. So short, personalized, straight to the point. That's especially when you're contacting, like Richard contacts billionaires and their family offices, which get tons of inquiries and lots of people reaching out. So talk about, what do you think the lowest hanging fruit is to raising more capital?
Lowest hanging fruit is always going to be your personal network, friends and family, right? That's going to be always a good start. If we're talking past that, it's going to be any local events, right? So, we're going to be in New York coming up on October 3rd. We're going to be in South Florida in Miami, second week of December. right? So we always make sure to kind of reach out to our local markets in those areas because it's the easiest for them to travel to events, right? So I think that's really crucial too. Going to events is very, very helpful and supportive for your efforts. So that's one way. I think the other way is referrals are really strong. So if you already have a pool of investors that have invested with you, reaching out to them and finding out, hey, we've been working together for a long time. You invested in our fund, you invested in our real estate properties. Do you have anybody else in your network that would possibly like to look at these investment opportunities, right? So I think that's one of the lowest hanging fruits as well. It's very, very crucial, is very, very strong. And then once again, just finding good investor clubs out there. There's a lot of clubs, there's a lot of communities, ours being one of them, right? Obviously I'm biased, but I think we're the best community out there. But looking for, those clubs that really give direct access to their investors one way or another is one of the best ways to do it as well.
Mm-hmm. So what about larger groups that might want to scale their firm? Say they have $2-3 billion AUM, and they have a whole team managing their investor relations, etc. How should they look at scaling their capital raising efforts?
Yeah, so one of the things is once again looking at how they can position themselves as experts in the market, right? So even though you're managing 2-3 billion, 600 million in assets under management, you should look to promote yourself as an expert in your space, right? So I think that's one of the best things. Also, if you're at that level, you should be investing in getting out there, like getting on podcasts, getting on stage at different events in order to build your credibility, making sure that you're recording it when you're on stage, right? I see a lot of individuals that are speaking on stage consistently, but they don't have any recordings of their stage time. Right? I think that's critical. You got to make sure that all of this is documented. But I think once again, getting out there and getting on stage and public speaking is one of the strongest ways to scale upwards in terms of your branding and how you're positioning your firm. Very, very, very crucial. And it's going to be one of the best ways for you to have people coming to you wanting to learn more about how they can work with you versus you having to go out there and chase and chase and chase.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to chase. So do you have any stories of how you built a brand to position themselves to raise more capital, maybe a testimony, a success story?
Yeah, there's several. I think one of the ones that we worked with this one firm. There's a couple firms, but one of the firms that we worked with was called Stonebridge Capital Partners, right? Stonebridge Capital Partners. So when you look at that name, you don't know what they do, right? They could be anything. They could be a wealth management firm. They can be a tech VC. They can be anything. They can be a real estate firm. This so happened to be a real estate investment firm. But once again, your logo should be working for you. Your brand name should be working for you. You should let people know exactly what you do, so people can look at it and say, "Hey, that sounds like that would be of interest to me." So what we did is that we really found out, okay, where do you focus and what do you do? Well, we focus on multifamily real estate. Okay, where? In the Carolinas, right? In North and South Carolina. I was like, okay, then let's go with that. Let's rebrand your company. And we rebranded them to Carolina Multifamily Investments.
Yeah, so straight to the point. It's kind of like pitchdex.com. It literally says it in the name. You're partnered with the Family Office Club, which is a group for family offices. So kind of give the impression of what you do in the name is huge. What other success stories do you have besides just rebranding, maybe renaming your company, something else?
Yeah, another firm we were working with which was a cannabis venture capital firm, right? They came to us, they were just launching, so they didn't really have a name. So we gave them a name of Cannapreneur Partners. Right, Cannapreneur Partners, very unique name. Launched them from start, created their logo, created their color palette, their unique value proposition. That firm has done really well. Their founder had a $110 million plus exit in the cannabis space, and then launched a fund. And ever since then, they've published ebooks, they've gone speaking around the country. We got them connected with Kevin Harrington at one point, in order as an investor in their club and as a strategic advisor and partner. We helped them host dinners, cannabis dinners in Miami with cannabis chefs and stuff. So that's been, a story of a firm that we've really helped go from A to Z, right? And through the whole process. We were also working, I mean, there's a lot, there's a lot of firms that we've worked and helped rebrand, once again, using those same strategies, focusing on their area of geographic focus, even small branding updates, right? We worked with a firm out of Chicago, Caprock, right? And they were just called Caprock. We added just Caprock Real Estate to their logo, so at least they could communicate what they do. Those type of small things really make a difference. Worked with another firm, which is a health and nutrition firm. They do food distribution, called Utopia, with YOU, Topia. We have them regularly speaking on our stage. And now I think they're speaking on October 3rd again on our stage because they've had such great results from being able to speak on stage and communicate their message to a large audience at once. So that's been very powerful too.
For sure. Yeah. So what are the advantages of a group working with you guys versus them trying to do it themselves?
Oof. Well, one is having those second set of eyes reviewing materials, right? We've worked with over 1,000 firms developing their pitch decks, right? Developing their branding, developing their messaging, their one-liners. So we've seen a lot of companies a lot of companies that have come to us after working with a marketing agency for the past 6 months and realizing that marketing agency wasn't a good choice because that marketing agency doesn't understand capital raising. Right. So those are one of the huge advantages of working with us. We understand capital raising. We've worked with so many firms. We have so many members and hear so many of their stories. So we understand, what it takes. Because the thing is that we consider marketing to investors its own type of niche or space, right? There are companies that do B2C, business to consumer. There are companies that sell business to business. We consider our business B to I, business to investor, right? So you have to have a very different strategy than a B2B business would, right? Your approach, your messaging has to be different than the way that a B2B business would do it. But most of these other agencies, they really only know B2C and B2B. Right? Maybe they've done the marketing for the local restaurants or the local gyms or, the local consulting firms or the local corporate lawyer's office, right? That understand B2B. But do they really understand how to create a message that targets investors? Right? Do they really know how to hone in on that message, how to target the right investors, how to source the right leads? So, one of the big advantages of working with us is, once again, that experience in B2I, business to investor, creating those messages, right? We've launched our podcast. Our podcast does tens of thousands of views a month. Our YouTube channel, I think, just surpassed 100,000 subscribers recently, right? With millions of views. And that's because we know how to target the right investors.
For sure. Yeah, so it seems like if you rebrand a firm, you mentioned put in real estate in Caprock's logo, rebranding the North Carolina multifamily firm, it seems like that would help with deal flow as well. Do you see that across the different groups that you rebrand?
An improvement in their deal flow?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because they're just getting more of their audience in. Right, more of the appropriate audience, right? So other real estate firms will attract other real estate firms. So they're definitely getting more deal flow for sure.
For sure. Well, awesome. Thank you, Andres, for coming on. Shout out to our sponsors, the Family Office Club, which you guys are partnered with, Capitalist Pro, and Invest Next. Did you know that the Family Office Club has over 3,000 ultra-wealthy investors in their community? You can check them out at familyofficeclub.com. And if you want to check out pitchdex.com, you can contact Andres. Andres, could you give your email out for the listeners?
Yeah, it's my name at familyoffices.com. So Andres, Andres, at familyoffices.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Andres.